COVID-19 is a pandemic and it happened very sudden. We don't have any time to make ourselves well prepared to this. So when it happened in March 2020, when the first report of COVID-19 happened in Siem Reap, we decided to close only school in Siem Reap town. And later on, it expanded to Phnom Penh and the whole Cambodia for the school closure. The decision of school closure is taken only within 1 or 2 days to make sure that no life will be harmful. The health and the safety of students and education staff have to be protected against the spread of COVID-19. When the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport decided to close the school, there are two measurements that had been taken. The first is to ensure the continuity of education activity with quality, equity, inclusiveness, and lifelong learning. The second measurement is to ensure the minimum loss of life and asset for the education institution and education sector as the whole.
Just like in other countries, COVID affected education system in Cambodia, and we can see that schools were closed. We have in Cambodia 13,000 schools and 12,000 are in rural area with 3.2 million students enrolled and 93,000 teachers, fine. And after a sudden, this whole system was stopped, fine. So what our immediate response was that even before the COVID, we were working with the Ministry of Education to build their capacity to deliver digital education for the needies, fine. So we have a basic education program which we are working with Ministry of Education and Ministry of Labor for students who have dropped out in secondary education, who could not able to complete their primary. So immediately after the COVID, we opened the digital platform to all students in Cambodia. It has a curriculum on science, maths, English. And in the end, we have realized that 9 million students access that curriculum, including teachers as well. So that was a very immediate response, which shows that if you are prepared and you are giving priority to digital education, what we call blended education, in terms of crisis is really helpful. Secondly, we also supported particularly the teachers in the primary schools, especially for grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, because this is the area in education where it's difficult to bring young children to the school and conduct the classes. So again, UNESCO, we work with the ministry and the teachers in digitizing the curriculum, training the teachers how to conduct classes, and how to operate fine in a way where they cannot have access to the students directly. So one of the area was that we supported ministry in setting up of studio for teachers, provided them equipment where they can record their lessons, train teachers in doing video lectures, and then through social media platforms using Ministry of Education websites and technology and supporting them, we delivered education.
COVID-19 is an unprecedented crisis globally, and children are not exempted. In reality, children have taken the brunt of it. The way the pandemic has affected the livelihoods of the families, we see more families falling below the poverty line, and it means that there are more children below the poverty line. It has affected their health, nutrition, education, protection. And let me just take education as one key area. You know that in Cambodia, the schools closed in March, and there were around 150 days that the schools were closed. Of course, there was immediate response in UNICEF. We quickly adjusted our programs to see how we can support the ministry to provide distance learning. Distance learning uses different channels: TV, radio, print materials, and of course, internet and digital learning. It has been, in a sense, a blessing because it has really accelerated the use of technology and digital means in education. But there has also been a downside to this because not all children have access to digital learning, to internet. And based on a rapid assessment that we have done, we can see that there is a huge digital divide or gap.
L'école à la maison, c'était un petit peu difficile et un petit peu ennuyant parce qu'on ne voyait pas des amis et aussi on ne faisait pas de sport et on ne voyait pas vraiment tes profs ni tes amis. Parce qu'en fait, en primaire, on faisait un petit peu de visio et donc on ne voyait pas trop les profs et souvent on les rate parce que souvent on ne regarde pas trop l'ordinateur. Parce que souvent, quand on est des enfants, et ben, on joue dehors.
L'école à la maison, ça s'est passé plutôt bien. Enfin, j'étais tranquille. Par contre, j'ai oublié beaucoup de choses. Je retenais pas beaucoup de choses. Les cours, c'était un peu difficile. Il y avait beaucoup de coupures, car on était dans la saison sèche. Sinon, c'était plutôt bien.
C'était assez compliqué au début, mais ça nous a permis d'apprendre à prendre des initiatives et de s'améliorer dans l'organisation du travail. Et personnellement, moi, ça allait. Et
pour moi, l'école à la maison, c'était plutôt bien. J'étais à mon rythme, c'était plus facile. J'arrivais à m'organiser toute seule. Même si parfois les travaux étaient un peu compliqués, mais c'était très bien.
Bah, je pense que c'est pas vraiment très bien parce que mon niveau, mon temps d'écran, il est plus élevé qu'habitude. Parce que normalement, si je suis à la maison, je dessine plus et j'écris des textes et d'autres.
Ça a été très compliqué et délicat à la fois de faire la différence en fait entre son lit et son bureau, de garder la concentration aussi, parce qu'on a tout le temps son portable aussi à côté. C'est quelque chose de compliqué, savoir mettre des distances aussi avec tout ce qu'on a autour de soi. Et il faut trouver aussi un environnement qui est adéquat pour le travail et c'est pas du tout évident.
Bah, moi je trouve ça plus relax en quelque sorte. Je me sens mieux chez moi. Et pour travailler, même quand on a une éval par exemple, à la maison, on a moins de stress que quand on est au lycée. Bah, je pense que ça m'a aidé en quelque sorte.
Lần Covid ហ្នឹងខ្ញុំបានរៀនអនឡាញជាមួយនឹងគ្រូខ្ញុំតែខ្ញុំរៀនអត់សូវបានទៀងទាត់ទេដោយសារនៅឆ្ងាយពីគ្នាអញ្ចឹងទៅអត់សូវបានយល់ចិត្តគ្នាហើយគ្រូខ្ញុំឯវិញក៏បានស្គាល់គ្នាច្បាស់ដែរម៉ាក់ប៉ុណ្ណា
ពេលខ្ញុំវិញពេលមុន Covid ខ្ញុំរៀនជាមួយគ្រូខ្ញុំតាមអនឡាញព្រោះឯងនៅឆ្ងាយពីគ្នាហើយអត់សូវបានរៀនខ្លះដែរ
ពេលខ្ញុំនៅបន្ទាយមានជ័យស្រុកកំណើតរបស់ខ្ញុំបានរៀនតាមអនឡាញដែលប្រើប្រាស់កម្មវិធីមួយដែលមានឈ្មោះថា Zoom ខ្ញុំរៀនពេលហ្នឹងរៀនមុខវិជ្ជាគីមីដែលគ្រូជាគ្រូមកពីសាលារដ្ឋដែលខ្ញុំរៀនសប្តាហ៍ថ្ងៃជាមួយអ្នកគ្រូហើយសិស្សនៅក្នុងថ្នាក់គឺទាំងអស់31នាក់
ការ Covid ហ្នឹងបើយើងកូវីដកូវីដណាចឹងខ្ញុំសូមឲ្យកូវីដណាភៀសចេញឆ្ងាយកុំឲ្យពួកខ្ញុំបានរៀនទៀតខ្ញុំវិញពេលកូវីដខ្ញុំមានការពិបាកខ្លាំងព្រោះខ្ញុំអត់សូវចេះអញ្ចឹងប្រាក់វានាំឲ្យខ្ញុំអត់សូវចេះថែមពេលម្ដងកូវីដខ្ញុំនៅបរិយាកុមារខ្ញុំរៀនហើយខ្ញុំលេងហើយដល់ពេលនៅសាលាវិញខ្ញុំរៀនវាដិតដល់ជាងព្រោះពេលនៅឡាគ្រូអានបញ្យល់ឲ្យគ្រូប្រាប់ទៀត
ក្នុងកំឡុងពេលកូវីដខ្ញុំបានទៅផ្ទះប៉ុន្តែពេលនៅផ្ទះខ្ញុំអត់បានរៀនតាម YouTube អីទេព្រោះខ្ញុំអត់មានទូរស័ព្ទតែនៅពេលខ្ញុំមកដល់បរិយាកុមារវិញខ្ញុំរៀនតាមកុំព្យូទ័រនៅហ្នឹងខ្ញុំមានផលពិបាកដូចជាទី1ការសិក្សាអត់បានដិតដល់ហើយមេរៀនក៏រៀនអត់បានចប់ហើយក្នុង online class ខ្ញុំក៏អត់បានរៀនដែរព្រោះនៅក្នុងថ្នាក់ខ្ញុំរៀនតែម្នាក់ពីរនាក់អញ្ចឹងគ្រូក៏អត់បរៀន
នៅពេលខ្ញុំទៅស្រុករយៈពេល3ខែហ្នឹង cứ trongពេលដែលឆ្លាញ់ខ្ញុំប៉ះកងហើយកំឡុងពេលដែលខ្ញុំមកវិញហ្នឹងខ្ញុំមិននៅស្នាក់នៅបរិយាកាសគឺអត់សូវមានការងាររវល់ច្រើនទេហើយក៏បានចូលរៀនតាមអនឡាញធម្មតាវិញទាំងអង់គ្លេសហើយនិងទាំងនៅសាលាបានសម្រាប់ចំណុចហ្នឹងគឺខាងសាលាគាត់មានកម្មវិធីរបស់គាត់គឺមានសៀវភៅតាមមុខជំនាញមួយហើយឯកសារក្នុងមុខជំនាញហ្នឹងគឺនៅក្នុងហ្នឹងគឺមានស្រាប់ឲ្យយើងហើយបន្ទាប់មកគឺគ្រូគាត់ទៅដាក់សំណួរដូចជាកិច្ចការប្រចាំឲ្យយើងធ្វើហ្នឹងគាត់តម្លាក់តាម Telegram ឲ្យយើងធ្វើ
The challenges of digital learning is that on one hand the teachers need to have the skills to be able to teach in the new medium. Overnight, the teachers were required to change the way they are teaching. And as we move forward, ensuring that the teacher training programs, whether it's pre-service or in-service, has a very strong component of digital teaching, becomes very important. The same thing is for children. Having digital literacy. When you talk about 21st century skills, of course it has the foundational skills, it has life skills, and then it has digital literacy. You can't be in 21st century without having those digital skills. And then looking at the issue of connectivity, we talked about access. To have equal access, it means that we need to increase connectivity, whether connecting schools to internet or looking at the different means that allows children to access learning.
Two areas where we are going to emphasize on. One is how we can support the government of Cambodia and development partners and others making the cost of internet affordable. That is the key, fine, especially when you see the rural-urban divide. A lot of schools are in rural areas. We have devices, we have teachers, but how internet can become affordable so that they can use them. Already education is a public good, but it needs to be accessible plus affordable. That is one, fine. And there are different ways of doing it. And there are discussions going on, like government can invest in budgeting, private sector concessions. So that is something ICT infrastructure, even for human resource development, is the key. When it comes to soft skills, I think we have to invest in teachers. The society has recognized around the world, even in Cambodia, just like health worker in COVID who are at the front line, in education system we have teachers who are at the front line. These teachers face two issues. One, personally, they are part of society, they were affected by COVID and they have to manage their families. Plus they did another work which was to make sure that the children and the parents keep on learning, fine. And we have seen amazing examples in Cambodia that how teachers access their students through WhatsApp, through social media, and started teaching them even in groups in rural villages, conducting classes with social distancing, working, even going at the homes of their students and providing them lectures and creating working groups, fine. And now, even post during the COVID crisis, like schools are open, they have to quickly upgrade their skills as well. For us, I think one of the best investment is teacher, and we will work with them with teacher training institutions, upgrade their skills in using technology, making learning more what you call effective, so that student can learn, and see that if there is any crisis or issue in future, they can manage it. But as I said from UNESCO, blended education is the future because it's not only flexible, it brings more innovative, it brings more knowledge to the students, and it provides a very good exchange program.
Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport with the support from Ministry of Economic and Finance and together with the collaboration from donor and even some civil society will leverage digital education as part of our priority. With this, there will be the establishment of Center for Digital Education and Distance Education. This center will provide, first of all, the content, digital content, Digital content here would be number one, the generic content, which means the video that produced based on the lesson, regular lesson that students would receive in the classroom. Yes. Second kind of video will be the inquiry-based lesson, which means this is the introduction of new teaching method that instead of teaching the student based on instruction and to follow everything, teacher will produce key questions imposed to the student within a collaborative learning environment, so that student will remember question and answer instead of the whole lesson. The third, what we try to do as much as we can is the introduction of project-based learning. So instead of remembering everything in the lesson, student will have the chance to pick up any lesson that relevant to their need and demand. Second activity is the data center. All of the information, content, and digital resource will be centralized at the data center in the ministry, so that we can connect with CDN technology or working together with telecom company in Cambodia to make sure that the delivery of those content to the student will be with fee reduction, if not exemption, but fee reduction, and it will be user-friendly, fast, and on time. But in the meantime, we are trying to explore another possibility, what we call offline technology, which means every high school shall receive a server, the server that load with all of the digital content that produced by our ministry, or the content that produced by the teacher themselves at the school level. And students can use their mobile device or computer to connect to the server and use access to the content free of charge. For the one who don't have smartphone, they may benefit from the available tablet and computer at school. Or I wish to take this opportunity to ask all students to look at their friend again. If they need, let's share. It's not only about the share of smartphone. It's not only about the share of device, but the share of mindset, the share of empathy among each other.
Disons que au début c'était assez facile parce que du coup on pouvait faire des jeux de société, on pouvait s'amuser entre nous, mais après c'est devenu un peu agaçant, si je peux dire ça, le fait de voir toujours les mêmes visages, et puis le fait qu'on soit isolés aussi ensemble, ça fait monter des tensions et ça peut dégénérer très vite.
Pour moi, ça me dérangerait pas trop, juste mon frère m'énervait un peu parce qu'il est très flemmard et il m'aide pas pour faire trop la vaisselle, maintenant ça va.
C'était assez ennuyant parce qu'on ne peut pas vraiment aller voir les amis, on devait vraiment rester dans la maison, surtout moi je reste tout le temps dans ma chambre, je sors pas beaucoup et c'était un peu sombre en fait, d'être tout le temps toute seule et dépressive surtout.
Non, moi c'était plutôt le contraire parce que quand je suis à l'école, j'ai l'impression que je passe pas beaucoup de temps avec ma famille, avec les devoirs. Du coup, être en confinement, on a des visios à 1 heure. On n'a pas toujours visio, donc 4 heures d'affilée, c'est pas ça, c'est plutôt 4 heures de visio par jour. Du coup, j'ai beaucoup plus de temps de passer avec ma famille, avec ma sœur.
Compliqué dans le sens où je devais travailler avec ma petite sœur à côté, c'est pas forcément simple de rester scotché à une famille 7 jours sur 7 et c'était bien aussi parce qu'on avait plus de temps, en fait il n'y avait pas le déplacement à faire, pas le besoin de se préparer, de se faire belle ou passer pour l'école et ça m'a permis aussi de profiter de ce temps-là pour pouvoir regarder des films, lire un maximum et pouvoir passer plus de temps aussi avec mes parents, ce qui est quelque chose de rare parce que généralement ils travaillent beaucoup et puis c'était une bonne opportunité pour passer plus de temps avec des personnes dont on oublie des fois l'importance.
C'était assez compliqué parce que on est seul à la maison tout le temps, donc on s'ennuie. Et puis il y a beaucoup de travail et quelquefois c'est un peu compliqué pour certaines leçons.
Je pense que je me suis senti un peu, en fait non, même pas un peu, très isolé, parce que ce que j'avais, en plus, j'étais pas vraiment chez moi, j'étais vraiment, je vivais dans une campagne, quelque part très loin de la ville, et on était seulement une famille de 4, mon père, ma mère et mon petit frère, et la majorité du temps, mes parents sont en train de travailler sur leur champ, et moi je suis dans ma chambre, dans ma propre chambre, et mon frère dans le sien. Et voilà, il n'y avait pas vraiment eu beaucoup de contacts entre nous.
អំឡុងពេលខ្ញុំនៅស្រុកកំណើតបន្ទាយមានជ័យខ្ញុំនៅជាមួយគ្រួសារខ្ញុំបានទទួលអារម្មណ៍កក់ក្ដៅនិងទទួលបានការជ្រោមជ្រែងពីបងប្អូនគាត់សួរសុខទុក្ខនិងអ្វីដែលយើងខ្វះខាត
ពេលកំឡុងពេល COVID ហ្នឹងខ្ញុំពេលដំបូងឡើយពេលខែ3ហ្នឹងខ្ញុំទៅស្រុកហើយដល់ពេលខែ7បានខ្ញុំត្រឡប់មកវិញវាមានលក្ខណៈពិបាកដែរបងដោយសារតែនៅផ្ទះយើងធ្វើការងារផ្ទះផងយើងរៀនផងដល់ពេលអញ្ចឹងទៅដល់ពេលយើងអត់សូវមានពេលរៀនដោយថាគ្រូកំណត់ឲ្យយើងយកលំហាត់នៅត្រឹមម៉ោង 4 ម៉ោង 5 ប៉ុន្តែយើងទំនេរនៅម៉ោង 11 12 យប់អញ្ចឹងតើតាស្អែកឡើងពេលព្រឹកបានយើងមានពេលអាចផ្ញើមេរៀននឹងឲ្យគាត់វិញអញ្ចឹងវាមានការយឺតយ៉ាវរៀនអនឡាញហ្នឹងក្នុងមួយសប្តាហ៍រៀន6ថ្ងៃរៀនថ្ងៃច័ន្ទដល់ថ្ងៃសុក្រប៉ុន្តែរៀនជាលក្ខណៈថាគ្រូគ្រាន់តែផ្ញើលំហាត់មកតាម Google Classroom ហើយយើងក៏ធ្វើឲ្យ send ទៅគាត់តាម Google Classroom វិញសម្រាប់ Google Meet ហ្នឹងក្នុងមួយសប្តាហ៍ជួបតែមួយថ្ងៃទេហើយទៅពេលព្រឹកយើងត្រូវរៀនមុខវិជ្ជាភាសាខ្មែរហើយពេលល្ងាចយើងត្រូវរៀនមុខវិជ្ជាគណិតវិទ្យាអញ្ចឹងចំពោះការសិក្សានៅផ្ទះហ្នឹងវាមានផលបាក់ច្រើនព្រោះយើងទៅផ្ទះមានការងារច្រើនត្រូវចាំយើងធ្វើហ្នឹងដូចជាត្រូវជួយប៉ាម៉ាក់នៅផ្ទះត្រូវព្រោះគាត់ទៅក្រៅអស់ទៅគាត់ទៅមើលស្រែចម្ការ
When we look back now to what is digital technology and digital education in Cambodia, it is not about video that we broadcast to students anymore, but it's about collaborative learning. Even when we have to distance ourselves from each other, what we call social distance, but we will never socially distance ourselves. To answer what would be the change in education at this moment, I would rely to it. The change from mindset, the change of practice, but the change that encompass human relation, the change that give more emphasis to human relation. And with this digital technology, it's just the mean. It's not the alternative source or approach to what teaching and learning at all.
You know, we are saying for decades that we live in a digital society, fine. One of the area which we have noted is that the way the social media is going on, it has bring many people together. You know, it has created a sense of unity. But unfortunately, what we have noted is that it also has created differences as well, especially when it comes to misinformation and disinformation, which we have noted in COVID, fine. As I said, you know, one of the way people see education is that it can differentiate between right and wrong, fine. And what we have noted is that the amount of hate speech and disinformation which is on social media, you have young people who are on social media, you have parents who are on social media, you have children who are using technology and they have access, fine. And during COVID-19 crisis, the amount of information which have flown from UNESCO, one thing was very clear, that the knowledge of digital education and how digital education is being delivered at school has become again a priority for us, what we call media information literacy, fine. And we have seen that through education and through technology, not only give access for economic growth and employment and people can do business, but more importantly, it has a serious impact on the values of the society. How you see yourself towards responsibility toward others, as you have said, how we can be connected. So on the one hand, we were connected, but equally on the other hand, the information which is flowing, we all should be sensitized so that we use it for the benefit of solidarity and creating solidarity rather than differences, fine. And in Cambodia, we have worked with young people, we have worked with artists, we have worked with media influencers, we have worked with musicians to start a campaign on against disinformation and misinformation and come up with messages which bring people together and see and fight together with the disease rather than fighting and discriminating each other, fine, the right of patients, the victims. So I think digital technology during COVID-19 has brought people together, and this is an opportunity to build an understanding how to use it for the benefit of the whole society, not for individuals.
Now, whenever you have a crisis, it gives you the opportunity to think about how you can build the system better, build it back better. And one key issue that has come up is that in education, as we are reimagining the education system post-pandemic, it is a system that provides access to digital learning to all children. There is also another downside of digital learning. It's true that it has helped children learn when the schools were closed, but the reality is that digital learning cannot and should not completely replace classroom learning. Children learn through interacting with each other. That's the human element of it. Children learn through interacting with their teacher. And therefore, as we move forward, looking at a blended approach that still allows the classroom learning supported by digital learning is very important. You know, when you think of this pandemic, it has reminded all of us our oneness in it together. Whether you're the president of a European country or a teacher in a sub-Saharan African country or a fisherman in Cambodia, right? It's going to affect you. But it has also reminded us that we can get out of it together. It has reminded us of nationalism versus universalism. And if there is a way out of it, it's for us together.
De pas lâcher les bras en fait, c'est-à-dire de rester concentré constamment, de se dire que vraiment il faut travailler parce que t'es obligé, et de se dire que ça va durer jusqu'à la fin quoi. Parce qu'il fallait quand même, on a fait plus de 2 mois voire 3 mois de distanciel et ça n'a pas été simple, il fallait vraiment garder le moral et trouver la motivation, c'était quelque chose de très 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 compliqué aussi.
La chose qui était le plus difficile pour moi pendant le confinement, c'était le fait que on était, on va dire, j'avais pas de relation directe avec mes amis, et je pense que pendant notre période d'adolescence, les amis sont un peu tout pour nous, et sans cette mise en contact avec mes amis, ça a vraiment eu un impact, on va dire, mental ou spirituel sur... on va pas aller trop loin pour aller crise existentielle, mais voilà, c'était quelque chose comme ça.
អ្វីដែលខ្ញុំនឹកជានិច្ចមិត្តភ័ក្តិវាយើងធ្លាប់ទៅរៀននៅសាលា lên sao mấy kia tới bây tranh lên nhưng đã từ nhằm ấy mấy kia
chấm pua khổ xa nhưng với quạt miền ca bầm tẹt tuông hướng đai để xa quạt cái thai chừng người nâng đội địa bàn khơi sập ngày nâng chẳng hay khoản tập pe quạt ao dương bây giờ pe dương tranh tới khéo chẳng hay trăm bát trăm dương tới ấy chẳng pe dương ở từ này hàng đình chẳng tới pe dương họ rồi cỡ ấy chẳng tới cái mẹ rộng thà dương nâng địch cạt cặp bất tới dương ở tới dương khoản ta và sai ấy thông đây chứ.
J'ai beaucoup chanté, Netflix, plus de sport. Ce qui était bien, on va dire, c'est qu'on pouvait se coucher, on pouvait se lever pardon, un peu plus tard. Mais voir ça, ouais.
On était beaucoup plus tranquille aussi par rapport à nos emplois du temps. On pouvait faire un peu plus de travail quand on voulait. C'était plus libre en fait.
Ouais, ils nous donnaient le devoir, on devait le rendre pour tel jour et on se débrouillait comme on voulait.
Surtout de me réveiller très tôt. Dès que j'aurai fini, je pourrais faire ce que je voudrais sans attendre.
Bah, du coup, ce que j'ai eu le temps de faire par rapport à ce que je ne peux pas faire d'habitude, c'est faire du sport parce que j'ai pas trop le temps d'habitude vu que je suis en terminale, j'ai beaucoup de devoirs à chaque fois. Et sinon, il y a aussi le fait de cuisiner. J'aime beaucoup cuisiner, je fais plein de trucs et du coup, d'habitude, j'ai pas le temps de faire ça alors que ça m'amuse beaucoup.
Cette période, j'ai préféré le temps parce que durant le temps, j'ai trouvé beaucoup de choses que je n'ai pas trouvées avant, comme la motivation dans le travail et comme le temps pour moi-même pour alléger un peu.
J'ai beaucoup apprécié parce qu'en fait, c'était une expérience très différente que ce qu'on a. Et surtout qu'on ne peut pas rencontrer ses amis genre, pendant les cours et que c'est la première fois que c'était une expérience pour moi et que ça fait bizarre un petit peu.
ពេលដែលអត់រៀនពួកខ្ញុំនៅគ្នាលេងល្បែងផ្សេងដូចជាការលេងគូរូបលេងឈូសមឹកអីវិញហើយនឹងលេងហក់មឹកខ្លះលេងហក់កស៊ូទៅមកអ្នកខ្លះលេងបាល់ទះបាល់អីវិញនៅបុរីកុមារខ្ញុំចូលចិត្តនៅក្នុងបន្ទប់ពេលតនេអីខ្ញុំអានសភៅរឿងព្រេងនិទាននិងតាក់ទងនឹងភាសាខ្មែរ
Disons, moi, j'ai été plutôt content, mais aussi mécontent de revenir à l'école. J'ai eu moins de liberté, j'ai dû être forcé à retravailler à nouveau, plus de travail, plus besoin de rattraper tous les cours, savoir comment les matières, qu'est-ce que j'ai manqué, et surtout, je pense se dire que finalement, on vient à l'école, on revient dans un espace qu'on reconnaît bien, qui est aussi différent à cause lorsqu'on est revenu à l'école le septembre, moi j'étais en quarantaine parce que j'ai dû revenir de France et disons c'était un nouveau environnement. Il y a des élèves qui manquaient, il y a de nouveaux élèves, je ne me reconnaissais pas, j'entrais en classe et bon, finalement c'est la rentrée.
On partage quand même des moments assez remarquables quand on est avec nos amis et le fait qu'on doive rester chez nous, ça nous renferme en soi. Et du coup, quand on arrive à l'école, parce que l'école a réouvert, c'est un peu bizarre entre les relations de chacun. Et du coup...
Pour moi, ça me dérangeait pas trop. J'aime bien être chez moi, tranquille. Oui, bien sûr, il me manquait mes amis, c'était un peu compliqué, mais on savait qu'on allait se revoir, donc ça allait.
Ce qui m'a principalement manqué, j'étais content de revenir parce que les gens, j'avais pas trop de contact avec des gens de l'extérieur et je trouve ça sympa de discuter avec des gens autrement que derrière un écran. Et c'est ce qui m'a principalement manqué, donc c'était pour ça que j'étais content de revenir, mais pour le reste, je suis bien chez moi.
ដានចំណេះយើងចឹងធម្មតាយើងនឹងមានការងារស្រួល
សម្រាប់ឥឡូវហ្នឹងគឺខ្ញុំបានចូលទៅរៀននៅសាលាវិញហើយតាមធម្មតាប៉ុន្តែគឺសាលាឲ្យយើងធ្វើតែអនុវត្តទេព្រោះការដែលយើងរៀនតាមអនឡាញគឺយើងគឺរៀនទ្រឹស្ដីបន្ទាប់មកគឺឥឡូវហ្នឹងគឺអនុវត្តប៉ុន្តែសាលាអត់រៀបចំឲ្យយើងរៀនស្រួលបួលទេគឺចែកចេញជាពីរក្រុមហើយសាលាក៏មានប្រើគម្លាតពីគ្នាដែរអត់ឲ្យនៅជិតគ្នា